Hey guys, Tighter Pilot 4 back at it again in part 2 of the God of War 2 story. I know I said in the last video I'm picking up right where I left off, which is semi-true. I skipped over a bunch of the deaths that I encountered in this section, and here I am finishing it, moving on to the next part of the game. I should say, as I'm editing this, I noticed there's a bunch of jump cuts just like that. So the reason for those is due to the fact that when I reset all of my equipment and got it up and running once again, and when I say it was down for a very long time, it was down for about 4 years. The pandemic was still a thing going on, but because I have the older software, you see jump cuts such as the one you see right now on screen, and it is something I'm learning to work around. I just have to update the software with Elgato. I kind of skipped the screen on it last time I was there, but I will get there when I get there. I'm not always the best person when it comes to technology. So back to the game at hand. I'm currently fighting off these Medusa type creatures. I actually don't know the correct name for them, but they are also one of the other enemies that I really don't enjoy dealing with, because they have that ability to turn you to stone, and if you're dealing with more than just one, you end up dying a lot faster. So I had to restart this section about 4 to 5 times, and let's just say that the developers did a really good job at frustrating the player, especially towards the end of the game. So here I go again, and I noticed that in certain sections I always get these jumps and breaks in between the game like that. There's those little stutters. So I think it was also the game itself that might have had an effect, but I can't confirm. See, look how quickly I died. Alright. Not to change the subject, but I died quickly, and it's always on those Medusas turning me to stone. So that has a big effect on it. So I think with how much this is bugging out, I'm just going to skip to way past this, because I know it took me about a few tries just to get through it. So getting past that took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but that's alright. I made it to the section where I'm just using the steam to get me to the Phoenix Chamber, and it wasn't as difficult as I expected it to be. I know timing also isn't my forte, but third time is always the charm, so here I am making it to said chamber. I really like these types of games because even though I grew up hearing about them, I didn't ever really watch much gameplay on it until I really needed help getting through certain sections of the game. And I always know something big is going to happen when there's a save point, just like this. And here we are going to the next section or portion of the game. Skeleton enemies, very easy to take care of, never really been an issue. I think I just have an issue with grabbing onto them, but there is someone that does come up, and I get annoyed by all of them, but I can handle armored guys. Anyone can. That's just getting through the game itself. But it's what comes right after I kill these guys that I got stuck on long enough that the game had to ask me on 3 separate occasions if I wanted to downgrade to the easier version. Me being me, I couldn't let that go, and I just had to keep pushing forward to the point where I went online, found a walkthrough, and I got past this. And I want to say it took me about 10 minutes, and that's not that I didn't understand how to do it, it's just I wasn't moving quick enough. I wasn't rolling or flying throughout the entire time that I was trying to get past this. And here we are towards the end of the Phoenix Chamber, where I finally opened up all the gates on the sides, and it was just a big game of trial and error. The 3 guys that I am fighting, were the same guys that I started with. I just did my best to avoid them at all costs, or at least distract them. And here I am, finally getting the statue on top of the pressure plate. This looked like another stroll in the park, but I assure you it took me a lot longer to get this far this quickly. Which, even then, it still took about 8 minutes. Feels like an eternity when you're playing it, but looking back, maybe not as long as it really was. But 8 minutes is a very long time, depending on where your perspective is on that. But here I go. I almost saved the game, but I just wanted to double check because I know they hide loot boxes in the most random places in the world, and I just wanted to be safe. And of course, before I can continue on with this part of the game, I have to fight these two Minotaurs. Both of them are now dead, or at least they're about to be both dead. I finally take off this last one, and those QTEs, they always get to me. I always mix up where the buttons are, because growing up I played a lot of Xbox from elementary school all the way to high school, and it wasn't until 2022 that I finally got a PlayStation 5. And by that point, I was well adjusted to the Xbox controller, which is still arguably my favorite controller next to the PS5 controller. But the damage was already there, and I really struggle sometimes just figuring out where the button placements are, because I just got back into playing video games again. For the longest time, I was training for a wrestling tournament in my state, and I was just so hyper focused on it to the point where my only priorities were working out, going to work, and hitting the gym. So working out, eating, working out, training, working out, showering. I showered. I should mention that. I'm not some kind of sweaty gamer. I just realized on the screen that the Phoenix just came out, and that's also what I really like about the God of War franchise, because the first game I ever played was Ascension, and that's back in 2022 when I started playing that, and I loved how massive the world was and how crazy certain parts of all of these games can get. So I didn't expect the level to come so soon, but I know that in certain parts of the game it can get very tear-jerking, and as soon as I saw this area, I knew that I was going to feel really sad, and I really didn't want to fight this guy, because if you have played this game before or have seen videos on it, this is the last Spartan. I should give a spoiler warning. This is the last Spartan of Sparta, and you basically kill him and then use his body to help defeat the Kraken. So he did at least help you one last time. And I felt really bad doing this. I didn't want to use any special abilities, no power-ups, no ults, no side weapons, because I felt like I had to do an honorable battle with this guy one last time. I actually heard that you're supposed to meet Kratos' brother. I think I missed that. It had to be at some point in the game, or I don't think it's not in the third one, but I get confused with all the lore. But here I go fighting him off, and he's very strong. Even on like the regular difficulty, he's pretty strong, and I know he put up a good fight. I was doing my best to not hurt him, but it has to happen. This is a canon event in the game. And I believe, there you go. So that's the part where it hurts. It hurts to do that. I don't know if you heard that slap on my leg, but that was out of like actual sadness, because he was just doing his best. And I know this is a bit of a weird sidebar as to what's happening in the game, but it really does make a grown man, or at least reasonably grown man, come to tears, or at least doing his best to hold back tears. And I don't want to spoil a lot of as to what happened, so I kind of skipped over it. But for those who are a bit more attentive and aware as to what's going on in the background of this commentary, we are now witnessing the meme of Kratos calling out Zeus and getting upset with him and all the gods of Olympus. And he kind of just gives up here, but I'm just going to cut to the next part where I'm fighting the Kraken itself. Boom, here we are with the end of the battle. I die a lot, and I can't emphasize that. I'm going to keep repeating it throughout this entire 3 to 4 part series. I die copious amounts of times, but that's alright. I finally defeated the Kraken, and even looking back, I have a little bit of a soft spot for the Kraken, because growing up I watched a lot of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I recently just watched the trilogy, the original trilogy, and going into the third one, once again, spoiler alert, they humanize a little bit of the Kraken because Davy Jones had to kill it, and it kind of created a soft spot for me because it was kind of just used as a tool for the destruction of others. So I have some remorse in this part where this Kraken, I feel like, was just doing the job of the gods of Olympus, and maybe it did, maybe it didn't want to be there. So you feel some remorse, and I get my extra licks in just to make sure it's dead. But here we are. I actually thought this was going to be another battle in the sky. I'm glad it wasn't. Literally all that the Phoenix does is just bring you to where the Sisters of Fate are. And funny enough, I actually didn't realize that the island that the Sisters of Fate are on is the cover of God of War 2, where Kratos is looking off into it. And I'm pretty sure it's also the thumbnail that I'm using for this playlist and for these videos that I'm uploading. So this is really cool. I like the animation, and even though you can tell it's around the 2000s, it still holds up. I argue that it still holds up, and it has that sort of nostalgic feeling, but I feel like that word can be overused. But I still enjoy it, and it really takes me back to a different time. So I believe that this is where the audio starts to pick up. I know it's going to pick up towards the end of this video, but I promise you in the next videos the audio will at least be in the background. But this was a really cool way to get into the game. This even shows that my attention was focused on just killing the enemies, that the Sisters of Fate also have control of that little time stone that you use to freeze time, and that was something that completely blew my mind. Like, I didn't know that. And in the next videos when I'm fighting the Sisters of Fate, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show that. I might just show the in-between because I don't know how to censor nudity properly, and I kind of just want to get these videos out just to finish off the series. But with the God of War 3, I will actually take my time, because I'm just going to be starting that. Once I'm done ending these, I will. Back to the point, that kind of just shows the attention that I have been giving this game. I actually started this game about a year ago, and I took a long break just because of my Wi-Fi and because I was just caught up with school, work, and working out. I was destroyed. With that being said, I think I'm going to cut off the video here. Basically, I had to ring both of the bells on each side, and then that would crack the face in the center, and I would have to break it. But by this point, it was 1 a.m, like a lot of my mornings are, or a lot of my days are, and I just decided to call it quits for the day. So I will continue this series. It should be done in the next video. Like I said, I don't think part 4 is going to be necessary, but at least there will be audio. I can guarantee you that. I don't know how much footage I'm going to be able to show because I don't know how to properly censor all of the nudity in this game, and the Sisters of Fate are very nude. So I don't know how much I'm going to have to edit out or how much I'm going to skip, but I promise you the audio will at least be there. And with God of War 3, I will at least provide a bit more commentary. I think in the next video, I'm going to explain what I want to do with this series, or what I want to do with all the commentary videos. But with that being said, enjoy the little last soundbite at the very end of the video. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.